Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jillian Kiley, and I'm a resident of Cranston. My property also kind of cuts into Providence. So I'm just here for two reasons. One is that, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate way to do this, but I just wanted to submit a petition signed by folks who are asking that you oppose this bill.
So if you could give that to the clerk.
Okay.
He can make copies and distribute it to all of us. Okay. That would be great.
And the other thing I just wanted to quickly talk about was I oppose this legislation, even though I understand the difficulty of the unfunded pension situation. And while I hear the talking point that's made about the idea that this isn't a bailout, normally when municipalities consider entering into a public-private partnership or privatizing the water supply, they're doing so because there's a problem with the infrastructure, the water infrastructure. But Providence is suggesting that we monetize a well-functioning water system in order to pay for something that's unrelated. And if you look at other cities that have experimented with this, it tends to go very badly, including in the city of Indianapolis, and Mayor Lorza mentioned that Steve Goldsmith is helping advise on this. About 10 years after Mayor Goldsmith finished his time there, Indianapolis paid $29 million to reclaim public control over that water system. Atlanta ended a private water deal with United Water because there weren't public savings or private profit. But there was poor service, there was brown water coming out of the taps. There were water main breaks and boil water only alerts. Other buybacks include the Santa Paula, California, which spent $70 million to buy back its water. Fort Wayne, Indiana paid $67 million. Missoula, Montana paid $88.6 million plus another $5 million in court costs. And while Missoula was in the midst of its lawsuit, the private group that owned the water utility sold it to a Canadian firm for $300 million. Just so there's, when you have legislation like this, as different folks have pointed out, that allows the possibility of selling it to a private entity, maintaining the quality of the water, the security of the water, and the water service isn't really the priority. It ceases to be the priority. And in terms of rates and penalties, efforts to cap rates in other cities hasn't worked. In Bayonne, New Jersey, there is a meeting much like the one that we're in right now where city officials came out and said there is a rate cap for the next 4 years. The water rates won't rise, but that didn't come to pass, and water rates rose 28%. The mayor who championed the privatization of Bayonne's water was ousted, and he now says that water rates there are exorbitant. So it's difficult when you enter into an agreement, a long-term agreement with a private entity, because the public officials who would oversee that arrangement tend to be gone before the contract is expired, so you get locked in. There are also certain situations where transactions can have revenue baselines for private entities. So in places like in Apple Valley, California, water rates went up 68%. And then during the drought in 2015, residents started conserving water as they were asked to do. But because they used less water, they were penalized with a surcharge of 5% by the private water utility. So I just bring up these examples because if you have a bill that seems to be somewhat loosely written, even with the best intentions, a lot of things can go wrong. And so I would just encourage you to oppose this, or either hold it for further study or oppose this legislation.